I flew on a straighter aboard a regular commercial Emirates flight while still comatose. A doctor and nurse accompanied us, standing guard by my stretcher through the duration of the flight. It was all so well orchestrated that it was almost like a covert operation. The next Tao, my parents' anchor, arrived at the airport to receive us. First, I was put into an airport ambulance, then another ambulance, which took me straight to Max Hospital. When I asked my parents now what it felt like to arrive in India with me in that state, they look at each other and shrug. Hours, if not days, seem to have slipped from their memories. We know that our trusty driver remembers them coming out of the airport in a shell-shocked trance. Now, back home, they held their breaths, suspended between hope and fear. For 2 more months, they danced on the precipice of despair. As in Uganda, in India too, doctors could offer no solace, no glimpses into the future, for the brain's secrets remained as vast as the night sky and as personal as fingerprints. The heart ached as it stood witness to this mysterious battle. It was after 3 months of dormancy that I first felt a flicker of sensation in my body. Though the exact moment I emerged from endless sleep is lost on me, the raw intensity of my awakening is seared into my memory. The harsh hospital lights, the weight of my own body feeling foreign and wrong, my mind struggling to grasp where and when I was. Every sensation was overwhelming. My nerve endings had forgotten how to process the world. I tried to move my arm, but it remained stiff and immovable, resisting my efforts to budge it. Why is my arm locked in a cage? My right leg lay equally mutinous, bound in an even crueler contraption, a medieval-looking brace that climbed from ankle to knee, like ivy choking a tree. Yet, it was my arm that screamed the loudest. That feeling was more acute, closer to the core of me. A gentle lady, dressed in pristine white uniform, pressed just by the late hour, moved with the practiced grace of someone who attended to thousands of broken bodies. Her hands found my arm, each adjustment whispering compassion and care. The way she held herself, the quiet authority in her movements told me she was a nurse. Have I gone crazy? How can that be? This is just a nightmare. Before I know it, it will be morning, and I'll open my eyes and find myself on my red comforter in my bed in Manhattan.
We're going to talk about all of the experiences, Tarini details in this. Do you want to keep this on the table? And she has been through so much. I know so many of your family and friends are here who have been part of that journey with you. But I'm going to pay you the best compliment I can as a writer, which is to say there's so many lines you wrote that I wish I had written. I'm like, wow, this girl can write. So congratulations on your first book.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, your journey with us. And one of the things that I think sort of broke my heart when I was reading it was you've been through this terrible accident. You're in a coma. Your friends and family, are praying against the worst. And then you talk about, you wake up, of course, which is a miracle in itself. You talk about the fear and uncertainty on leaving that hospital in Uganda to come back home, because all of a sudden you're going to have to come back to, life outside the hospital and what that involves. It's such a profoundly moving book, as you can tell from that short excerpt Tarini read. Can you share a little bit with us on why you wanted to tell this story? It's not an easy story to share. Why did you want to tell this story?
Okay, but before I answer the question, I will say that I didn't fly from Uganda, from hospital in Uganda to regular life in India. I flew from Uganda in a coma. So I was, as you heard, I was unconscious, and I spent 2 more months in the hospital.
In the hospital, yeah.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to tell my story was just to make sense of an entirely senseless event. So sorry, I know.
To make sense of a senseless
Yeah,
event.
senseless event. It just I wanted to process everything that happened. It just made no sense. And a desire to reconcile the past and the present, who I was, because who I was in the past didn't just go away. I was still me, but I was different. But it was still me. I still had my identity, and I wanted to reconcile this my personhood.
Yeah, and we were talking about this right before the panel. You'll get these, a sense of Tarini's like wit and humor. There's, you wanted to share a little bit also about the book for folks to know about the humor?
Yeah, don't be fooled by this extract. The book is not 100% like doomsday. Believe it or not, there's some wit in there. It's also kind of, I've injected some light lines.
There's levity, there's humor, there's some takedowns of some characters who we will not discuss right now. There's, so I completely understand what you say in the book as well, that you wanted to show that you're still in there, that your personality is still very much Tarini. What was the hardest thing for you to write, to share?
Okay, so I don't want to give any spoilers, but I will say the hardest thing to write was just not only reporting the facts, but to articulate the messy stuff they call emotions, and how to express it so that it reflected the emotions I felt. And that's a very hard thing. For words to match emotions is very hard.
Yeah.
But I will say that even though I don't want to comment on the story content, there have been many hard things about the writing journey. Can I say? So the hardest thing in this whole author journey is the utter loneliness of the craft. Is because when you actually sit down in the chair and start writing and then continue writing and then continue writing, it's damn lonely. And now, and reaching this stage, we get to meet all the wonderful people, and now it's become a social thing. But the process is utterly isolating. And so you have to find instances of forming different writing communities. So that is one hard thing. Then another ongoing hard thing, a challenge, is marketing a memoir. Because I don't like to keep talking about myself and keep being stuck in my past. So I don't want to go on marketing myself and my achievements of recovering from this coma. It's not really an achievement. I'm just a life event that happened to me, and I don't want to market myself. So that's hard.
That is tough. So maybe we can corral everyone in this room to take on that mantle to market this book for you, because it's a damn good book. They're going to be your champions as we go through the session.
Please read it.
I think many of you, how many of you have read the book actually? So we'll know if we have, quite a few people have already read it. But we're still not going to, as she said, give too much of the storyline away. I was going to ask you about, reader reactions, which I'll come to in a minute. But you just talked about how isolating it is to write a book. A lot of what you went through itself, you had to, process many things on your own. But you also talked about how human connections are your life force. You talked about your amazing family, your relationships, your friendships. There was a bit about visits from school friends and HCF or hot chocolate fudge that kept you going for a while. How important has that been for this whole journey and for what we do read about in the book?
Human connections. So as Amrita said, human connections are my life force. Like, in my case, in an objective sense, survival is not solitary, it's collective. It's a collective effort. So in my village, in the early days after my accident, what I call my village is a theme in my book, is how I referred to this. It's a way I refer to the circle of care and support from all my caregivers, family, friends, everyone who loves me and who I love. So during my early recovery days, my family, of course, don't get me started on the number of sacrifices they made. So I won't comment on that. You can just read the book. But my brother, who's sitting here, he transformed my grueling rehabilitation sessions into something relational. So he would force me to do physiotherapy and make it fun and relational. We would chat and make silly faces and jokes, and it became fun. And then my partner at the time was my boyfriend of 5 years. He flew with my family to Uganda. When I had my accident, he flew to Uganda to be there. He thought he would be there as I regained consciousness, but of course I didn't. But he was with me through the accident and much after. And he's still present in my life, and we're very close. And then, of course, many friends, many school friends who had even lost connections with, they came to the hospital like on a weekly basis, some on a daily basis. So one friend came and performed Reiki on me. She read me poetry. And as Amrita said, one friend brought me ACS, hot chocolate fudge, and my father counted. Then I don't have sweet tooth, but suddenly after my accident, I developed a crazy sweet tooth. So my father counted one day. You won't believe this. It's a little shocking and embarrassing. But one day, I ate 13 hot chocolate fudges back to back. 13.
That was...
And that's when I decided, my father, I told my father I didn't believe him, and I said, prove it. So he had sat down in my room with a piece of paper, and he was making notes and counting, and then he showed me the paper, number 13. I did a double take. I was shocked. And then I made a vow: I'll never eat sweets again. So, and that's I do till today. I don't have sugar much. I can't say.
Yeah, I think 13 might be a world record. That was pretty, that was pretty incredible. I think also that he showed you the numbers. I think that was such an interesting anecdote. And I have to say, as a reader, when Tarini's family is here, but I think especially when you meet her brother and you read how you describe that relationship and how important that was for your healing, of course, your father and mother as well. It was such a privilege to meet you, because I feel like those of us who've read your book feel like we know you in this aspect as well. I know you have your own identities, but for us, you're Tarini's brother. The other thing I found very interesting, Tarini, because it is a debut book. It is a memoir about, as you said, making sense of the senseless. It's got a fabulous title, Lifequake, which really describes what happened. You write very candidly about privilege as well, which I think is sometimes harder for, I think, urban Indian writers to do. You write about the difference, and I want to ask you to unpack that a little bit for us, but I'm keeping an eye on the time because we want to keep time for audience questions. You write about privilege, as I said, candidly acknowledging it, acknowledging what it gave you access to in India, but you also talk about when you're in the US, in New Haven and New York, your experience there of accessibility. It's really quite eye-opening, the disparities there as well. Can you share a little bit about both of these?
Sure. So, accessibility, in the US, it didn't give me only comfort, it gave me choice. It made me feel alive, and it gave me agency. And in India, the infrastructure and the environment often rather disables more than my own body. So the Indians with Rights of People with Disabilities Act, passed in 2016. Believe it or not, it on paper is equivalent to the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. So everything is there on paper, but it's just not implemented, like not at all. So I'm candid about privilege in my memoir, because I think it's important to realize that it's not just that I'm an inspiring individual. It's also I am where I am because of access, networks, and money. The truth matters. And in many ways, privilege is like, I believe privilege may be like its own character in my book, because before my accident, I was able to quit my job on Wall Street to pursue my passion in the development space, because I knew I had a financial cushion, so I had the career freedom to do where my heart wanted to take me. And that's a great, really big privilege. And then, of course, my parents didn't know anybody in Uganda before they went there. And I was in coma, but they were able to leverage their social capital to make sure that they were well looked after and that I got the best care that I could possibly get. my dad was in the RBI, the central bank. So the central bank brotherhood went into action, and to the extent that the central bank, the Ugandan central bank governor came and prayed beside my bed and offered his help, which of course my parents didn't take, or I hope not. Yeah. And then the the Indian the, the Indian ambassador to Uganda, she provided home cooked Indian food to my family every day in the hospital. It was every day, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that lent them familiarity in an unknown place when they were so distressed. And then uh, and then my dad's friend arranged a doctor and nurse to travel with me while I was in the unconscious state on the flight back from Uganda to India. So they flew along with me. And my dad was able to get that organized. So all these connections and social capital really paid off. And then the kind of care I received back in India was in large part because my father's friend knew the head of the founder of Max Hospital and requested special care for me. So yeah, I'm guessing that's why I got special care. Then I'm sure.
I think you were very candid about a lot of that, which I think a lot of people don't acknowledge. I feel like it's your development professional background that makes you able to articulate some of this. There's also this very moving anecdote of the hospital boy giving you a rose, which had nothing to do with any of the rest of that, but it was a very sweet anecdote that stays with the reader. So I have a couple more questions, but I'd love a show of hands of who has questions for Tarini, because then we can open for the audience Q&A. And you can start articulating your questions, because in another 5 minutes or so we'll open that. Two questions from me for now, Tarini. You know, it was really important, I think, for me as a reader to get a sense of what you say about how people react to people with disabilities, because I feel like you educate us also on that, and you say that you're sick of the pity and you'd like to see more compassion, less pity. Can you tell us a little bit about this? And the reactions perhaps you've gotten to your book since it released in Delhi to a packed hall. So if you could tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so pity, empathy, and compassion. So pity, I feel like empathy is between pity and compassion. In between is empathy. But pity is like someone saying, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you is pity. And that's mostly said by strangers or some acquaintances. Empathy is like saying, I'm trying to understand you. I'm trying to understand your feelings and and the state in your life. And that's said by genuine individuals. It can be anyone. Anyone can feel empathy. And compassion is like saying, I understand, and I understand and I want to help. and I want to help you. So it's taking that understanding to action. That's the difference. And that's said by villagers, your people.
Those are your people.
Yeah.
So is it, does it feel a bit surreal to be here, given all that you've gone through, and even in writing the book, as you said, it's quite an arduous, isolating process to be here at the Jaipur Literature Festival, meeting readers. Do you have the writing bug now? Are you going to be writing more? Can you share a little bit with us?
Surreal, yes. It feels crazy surreal. Like, to be honest, I feel like an imposter. Like, what am I doing here on the same street as Kiran Desai? She was actually sitting here. And possibly every day it was on the screen there. So, what am I doing here? But as for what's next, I can say nothing is fixed yet, but I do love write. I love to write. But I also love people, and I also love living life and having new experiences. And you need to have new experiences to be able to write. But I've been having an idea of writing about other people's experiences, like perhaps writing non-fiction fan- about stories of impact, seeing life, stepping outside of my own life. Now, I want to get out of my own head. This memoir had me too much trapped in my own story.
Yeah.
So I want to see life as it is in India through other people's eyes who see life completely differently, and who are undergoing some of their own challenges. I'm interested in writing stories of impact.
It's going to be really interesting.
So let's see what that takes.
And I'm wishing you a lot of luck with that. We'll be following your journey. Huge round of applause for Tarini. And we should have a mic for those of you who would like to ask a few questions in the front row to start with.
Tarini, it's been very poignant for me. Your grandmother was one of my best school teachers, and I'm meeting you for the first time. She taught us English. I just want to say that I work in education, and one of the biggest challenges is to understand what inclusion means and what disability. Ability and disability are just two poles of the same concept. We focus so much on ability. But what does, how do we look at it? It's always a very clinical approach. We've got all these clinicians telling us what is disability. We want people who think, who reflect, who experience, and who want to write. We want people like you. So whenever you have some things, there are courses like disability studies, but if there's something that you have in mind which should be worked on, especially when we work in education, that would be really very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tarini. Congratulations again on the book.
Thank you.
I think I've said this to you before, but when I read it straight, like for the next 10 hours. I read it almost like a thriller. Although I sort of knew, the outlines of the story, I still couldn't stop reading it. So I'd like to say this first, and then I have my question, that when you're marketing your memoir, you're not marketing what happened to you or what you survived, but you're marketing a damn good book. And stick with that, because it's a damn good book, and it needs to be read because it's such a pleasure. But my question, this is on the craft. As somebody who's had a long work in progress draft, I wonder what was it like to do the revisions of draft after draft, right? Because so memory can be so fickle, right? And then did you come up with, like when you were revising, did you say, oh, here's something else that I'd forgotten, and then what did that do? Or was it like, did it feel like, as you said, trapped in your head? So I just wonder, what was it like to sort of work through the various revisions and get it to the final stage?
Thanks for asking that. And thank you for your bucket full of compliments. Once I'm lacking in a question. Oh, yeah. Editors are a writer's best friends. I feel like I was indeed trapped in my own head. The, I did 12 revisions of my manuscript. So there were 12 versions. And 12 is not that big a number, not even that big a number compared to others I've heard. But it's still quite a few. But there were no events that I forgot. I don't think the revisions weren't like things I forgot that I had to put in the next draft. But I revised things like the editor would notice something that didn't flow or was missing, and then suggest that I add. So it happened like that. And yeah, mostly it was back and forth between the editor and the writer.
I can just add to that. We worked together when he was editing, and I remember saying, Deepa, on such a day. Every once a week, I will have to stay at home because I have to edit my book. And it kept going, and she used to say how, she's gone through so many versions of it, so many versions, there's still more edits, still more edits. Each time it used to keep coming, and she had told me from, when she joined, I will be working from home, Deepa, because I have to edit my book. On these days, I'll be talking to my editor. So it took a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me do that.
Revisions are just like my least favorite part. I'm just going to add to that. It's a very painful part of writing. There are a couple more questions. One in the back there.
Hello, ma'am. So, ma'am, my question to you is, ma'am, basically people with disability are sometimes excluded from the society, right? And sometimes they give their whole life, they sacrifice their whole life just getting accepted in a society. So, was there any incident with you in which you felt the same, and then how did you overcome it?
That happens on a daily, if not weekly basis. The feeling of exclusion, but sometimes it's in my own head. When I think society is trying to exclude me, but it's not. Maybe it's not necessarily society is trying to exclude me. It's not actually trying to exclude me. It's just a system, the way things are built, and the system in general is just not very. It's not built for us. So in a way that is active, but in a way not. It's very confusing. So yeah, so just because of the system is the way it is, the system does exclude. And unfortunately, in developing countries like India, people with disabilities are excluded every day. Like, I won't be able to go to my friend's house who's having a get-together on a roof, or in a flat. She lives somewhere on on the third floor or something, and I'm just excluded. And even at work, I can't go to many events unless unless institutions accept that, unless institutions or people try to make things inclusive to everybody. And if if the system includes, and then participation doesn't become heroic, it just becomes ordinary. And that's why you want participation to just be ordinary.
That's really powerful. It shouldn't be heroic, it should be ordinary to be able to participate. Thank you. Thank you for that question as well. I think we can take a couple more. There's one up here, this lady in the purple. I'm a bit colorblind, I think it's purple. Violet. Violet?
First of all, congratulations on your book, and it's so nice to hear that you've been able to tide over this difficult phase in such a positive way. One statement that you made somewhere down the middle was that I love life, and that's what kept you going, and that's what has stayed with me, I think, through the conversation. So the question or to raise is that nowadays, I'm a mother of teens, and do end up interacting with people of similar age as my kids, and also maybe a little older, and people are ready to give up for far less. They take life very lightly. Whether they would actually decide to give up or not is a different detail, but they're willing to give it up for far less. So I'm assuming that through this entire phase of your life, there must have been some times where you would have also felt, I need to give up. What is it that made you go through? Or is there something you would like to share that, think about a particular instance in your life, do something specific that helps you get through that phase when you think, I need to give up?
Okay, thanks for the question. I will first say that when people take life too lightly and are on the verge of giving up, please use my book. And let my book motivate them. And I will say that even though it may seem odd, but I never felt like giving up. It just hasn't been an option that crossed my mind. I love life and I love the people in my life, and they love me back, and that's what you need. You just need people who love you and you love back in order to keep going.
One last question, perhaps? Yes, that hand shot up very quickly.
Thanks, Amrita. Tarini, I know your father, and I'm so delighted and honored to meet you today. And I will definitely pick up the book and get it signed by you. I will ask very simple question. First is very, very simple. You somehow had to cut down on hot chocolate fudge. I'm wondering, what else do you treat yourself to? And does your father come in and say that, okay, you can eat it or not eat it? That's my first question. And the second one is, I think you were talking about that you will clearly write more. So in that regard, are there particular topics that you are already thinking of putting your pen to paper?
My father, I don't let my father. First of all, my father is not the type of father who comes in, who's allowed to come and tell me, you can eat this, or you can do this, or you can't do this. He's not allowed. And as for the next project I'm going to write, I already answered that, but you might have missed it. I said, I'm interested in reading stories of impact and seeing other experiences of life different from my own. So getting out of my own head. And perhaps I think about frontline health workers or something, since I'm now in the field of public health. Seeing life, seeing ASHA workers or something, saving lives and the kind of situations they have to deal with. Just an idea.
Stories of impact. And I do want to say, actually, because, we keep, you keep getting references to Tarini's father. He comes across as such an ally and champion of yours in the book. I think just to clarify, there seemed to be a little bit of concern about the amount of sugar you were imbibing, which may be why he was counting your HCFs. But, I do hope that, you get a sense of how much your story has moved people. I really hope it has an impact, even across the work that you do when you talk about the importance of, participation being normal, not heroic. And I hope that as we give you an incredible round of applause, and your family and friends and the loved ones know how much this goes out for them as well, because Tarini's made it clear that you've been such an important part of this journey. I'm going to say, please do go out, especially, I don't make such an appeal for other people's books, as you can imagine. I usually plug my own, but please go and buy Lifequake. We're going to have Tarini right here outside. I think you're stamping the books. We'll have a chance to have a short chat with people as they come up for the signing. Is that right?
Yeah.
You're comfortable with that? That'll be perfect. So please do get her book. Please do spread the word, and let's give them an incredible round of applause.